And welcome back to another CB Beats Talk with your boy, Will Dickinson. The boy got a fresh cut, and it's time, finally, for the CBB award show. Yes, this took a little longer than expected. That's on me. It took a while to make. I was caught up with the Masters this week, really watching almost every shot of it. Just been busy with school, life, all of that, but I finally was able to bring these awards. I created all the same awards from last year. There's about, well, let me see how many awards there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 awards I'm giving out tonight. I've already given my All-American teams, my conference awards, but this is the national awards. So this should be fun. Let's go. Let's get into this, man. I'll use my phone a lot, make sure I get these stats right and give you the best possible episode because this is the finale of the 2024 season. Man, I'm gonna make a transfer video at some point. But it's just so hard to pay attention to all these transfers, man. I mean, each team's gonna look new. Obviously, John Calipari left to join Arkansas. Big coaching moves. BYU hired their coach today. But yeah, obviously the transfer portal is the big thing going on right now. But let's get into this episode, man, because this is what we're not focusing on next season. We're focusing on this past season, celebrating it. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right, so here we go. The CBB Award Show. Let's get into this. Let's go towards the awards here. The first award, the Freshman of the Year, the Carmelo Anthony Award, because maybe the greatest freshman of all time. Carmelo Anthony, last year's winner was Brandon Miller from Alabama, and we saw what he went to go do in the NBA this year. Was a beast. He's not going Rookie of the Year because obviously Wemby and Chet, but he will be first team All Rookie, and he's lived up to the hype. But let's go check out our nominees this year for Freshman of the Year. First up is Stephon Castle, your Big East Freshman of the Year out of UConn. And why I add Stephon Castle to this list was because of the way he elevated his game in the postseason. He averaged 11 points this year, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. But the way he scored 21 in the national semifinal, 15 in the national championship, had another 16-point game there. He elevated, he played his role amazing. And while he didn't have as good as numbers as some other freshmen I could have picked, I wanted to pick someone who could really elevate winning basketball. And I thought that's what they showed. I mean, he definitely showed this season was his way to just play great team basketball, contribute to winning. I thought that was so important. And yeah, he's my first nominee. My second nominee is Reed Sheppard of Kentucky. The story with Reed Sheppard going on recently has been is Reed Sheppard returning to college? Obviously, Mark Pope, new coach of Kentucky, good friends and roommates with his dad, who also played Kentucky. But the SEC freshman year, he was on my second team, all SEC. The way Reed Sheppard kind of came out of nowhere, just under 13 points per game, but had a 32-point game, 27-point game. He had many big-time games. Mr. Efficient, 52% from 3 this year, man. And obviously, he didn't have the NCAA tournament. He won only 3 points. I could see him returning to college, but he was just so impactful for Kentucky. And last up is Jared McCain. I believe Jared McCain averaged around 14 points this year, but one of the best shooters in the country. Yes, 14 and a half points. I thought he was Duke's best player in ACC play. That's why he was on my third team All ACC, the ACC Freshman of the Year. We saw him have big games in the tournament against NC State and against James Madison. He had big games in. Jared declared for the draft already. He's going to be a problem. He obviously shows his personality on and off the court there. But man, I'm rooting for Jared in the future. This was very tough. This is a very tough award to give out. All these players won their conference freshman of the year. But here it is. Your winner for the Carmelo Anthony Award for National Freshman of the Year goes to Reed Sheppard out of Kentucky. And look, if you take away the tournament game, Reed Sheppard was the best freshman all year. A guy who came off the bench for this Kentucky team and battled with his teammate Rob Dillingham. You didn't make my list just because I didn't feel like having 2 Kentucky players on here. Reed Sheppard had big time moments, memorable games, and really exceeded all expectations this year. The way he commanded the ball and played his role, would never complain. I can see him coming back and being a first-team All-American guy. He's that good. We'll see if he stays Kentucky or goes to the draft. I don't think he'll transfer to Arkansas. I think he's a Kentucky guy, not a Calipari guy. Obviously, it was a tough because he didn't make it far in the tournament. We didn't get to see him on the biggest stage, but all year long he proved that he was the best freshman in the country. Now we got to move on to this year's Transfer of the Year nominees. Let's go. Now we're on to the Transfer of the Year, the Jerry Lucas Award for National Transfer of the Year. Last year's winner was Keontae Johnson from Kansas State. We had some tough nominees this year. Obviously, the transfer. This is kind of the transfer era where the NIL era where players are leaving teams. They're signing 1-year contracts. Like it's free agency every year with 1-year contracts. So it's tough. If you're a top 3 freshman in the country, you're probably a top 10 player in the country. And this was really tough award to give out. But let's get into it. First off is Hunter Dickinson from Kansas, Michigan to Kansas. Obviously, it's an up transfer, but it's not like he went from a mid-major to a power program. Hunter Dickinson was a known guy since his freshman year, but look at this awards list this year: a third-team All-American, the first-team Big 12, the Big 12 Transfer of the Year, and a Big 12 Player of the Year nominee. Hunter Dickinson, while Kansas didn't live up to their preseason hype, and a lot of that had to do with injuries, him and Kevin McCullough were really a great duo. He averaged almost 18 points this year. Just a real impactful big man, one of the best in the country. I don't know what he's doing next year, if he's coming back or not. But if not, a great college career for Hunter Dickinson. Look, my name is Dickinson. I'm not the biggest fan of Hunter Dickinson, but a great career and a great season for him. Next up is Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee. Northern Colorado transfer, became one of the best players in the country instantly. A first-team All-American, the SEC Player of the Year and Transfer of the Year, and of course was on the All-SEC first team. Took over games when he needed. He averaged 22 points this year, 40% from 3. Wasn't scared of the moment. We saw him go toe-to-toe with Zach Edey. All year long, he had monster performances, a 40-point game, I believe, multiple 30 pieces. He was really the man for Tennessee this year. They lived and died by Knecht, and they made an Elite Eight with that. My last nominee is Caleb Love from Arizona. Look, Caleb Love, man, say what you want about him. He came in here and averaged 18 points this year on one of the better teams in the country. Averaged 2 more points per game from North Carolina. He was my Pac-12 Player of the Year. He was a third-team All-American. While tournament success wasn't great, I mean, obviously he went out with Nell, and he just declared for the draft today with maintaining eligibility. Caleb Love had a great year, an All-American, and he was one of my few All-Americans who did transfer. So obviously he was he made my list there. Really a great year for Caleb Love in Arizona. And Arizona's losing a bunch of players, so that's very interesting. But a great year for Caleb. UNC benefited from him leaving, and so did himself. And it was again a great year. And we'll see what Caleb's future has in store. But I think we all know where this award for the Jerry Lucas Award is going to for the National Transfer of the Year. It's Dalton Knecht. We saw Keontae Johnson win it last year, having a very interesting story. Obviously, his was a very national story because of the fact he collapsed on the court, came back, and was a beast. Knecht's not as cool of a story as that, but it's a great story. Went from a JUCO player to now being a lottery pick in the NBA draft, and I can't wait to see his future in the NBA. And a well-deserved winner of the Jerry Lucas Award for the National Transfer of the Year. And let's move on to our next one, which is one of my personal favorites, the Dog of the Year. So this award for Dog of the Year is just someone who out there in the court was fun to root for, fun to watch, and just a straight up dog. Didn't care what anyone thought, wasn't the prettiest game, but got the job done, hustled, and made big time plays. You saw last year's winner was Norchad Omier. A lot of it comes from being in the tournament, making a good run. We see Norchad was a dog last year. 2 years ago. He's such a big guy, so that kind of plays a part into it. It's an objective award. You can take what it means, but here am I. Now, this is a Mark Vital award because if you know, on that Baylor team, Mark Vital was a glue, and he was definitely a dog. So let's go look at the Dog of the Year nominees. First up is DJ Burns from NC State, a guy who swept the nation by storm and became America's sweetheart during the NCAA tournament. Look at this dude. How can you not root for him? He might be fat. He may not have the prettiest game, but man, do I think DJ Burns is a dog. He's so light on his feet, the way he scored, the way he was funny, and he didn't care what anyone think. He was dogging out there. My second nominee is Jaden LeDee. Again, a guy who doesn't have the prettiest game, but look, he was a second-team All-American, my Mountain West Player of the Year. And the reason he's a dog is because, again, he improved tremendously this year. and he dogged out there. He doesn't have the prettiest game. He has a flat jumper. He doesn't look the best, but when he gets out there, he gets the job done and cooks defenders who may not expect him to be a beast. He jumped on the scene this year and was definitely a dog for San Diego State. And my final nominee is Jermaine Couisnard from Oregon, a guy who came on the scene during March Madness, but if you watch him play this year, you knew he was a dog. He scored 71 points in 2 March Madness games this year. Him and Dante carried. I could put both of them on this list. They're both dogs. And what a year from Couisnard, who may form an NBA career from these 2 games. A great story and definitely a dog. And this year, the Mark Vital Award for Dog of the Year goes to... It was DJ Burns, man. As a Raleigh guy, I've always known a little bit about DJ Burns last year. And I didn't think DJ Burns was too good of a player. I thought he was bad. I thought he was a little selfish. And he changed my opinion through the ACC tournament, through the NCAA tournament. He became a phenomenon and elevated his game to another level. Obviously, he didn't go out how he wanted to in the Final Four, but that doesn't discount any of his play throughout the year. I mean, the way he just cooked players by just a little spin move or finishing with the left, batting people down, didn't really matter who was on him. DJ Burns was going to get a bucket, and he exemplifies the word dog when you watch a basketball player. So yeah, back-to-back winners for ACC guys in Norchad Omier, and DJ Burns wins the Mark Vital Award for Dog of the Year. Now, next award, the most disappointing team. Now, this is a very tough award to give out. Last year's winner was obvious. UNC, preseason number 1, not making it. I call this the SMH award because, man, shaking my head. It's disappointing. Let's get into this. The first nominee is FAU, a team I think I had preseason 7th or 8th in the nation. They end up losing their first-round tournament game, bringing back pretty much the whole squad that made the Final Four, that only lost like 4 games all season. You expected this team to take another jump going into the American, winning that conference and being a Final Four contender. They didn't win 1 tournament game. A really letdown season for Dusty May and the Owls. Dusty now moves on to Michigan. We'll see if his whole team goes to Michigan with him. John L's in the portal. Vlad Golden's in the portal. Man, a real disappointing year for FAU after obviously making the Final Four. You expect them to run it back and be able to do it. They didn't this year. Next up is Arkansas. Obviously, we're talking about Arkansas this past year with Eric Musselman, a team that I had 10th in the nation, who I was outlandishly high on. That was more than most people. Most people have in the either the early 20s or late 10s. I had them 10. I love this roster. They brought in a lot of transfers this year. It was a completely new team from the year before that made a Sweet 16, but I trusted Muss. I trusted this program, and they were bad. Not close to making an NCAA tournament. Didn't have really any great moments throughout the year. I think they finished with a just above 500 record. It was a bad year for Musselman. He leaves to go to USC, and now they have John Calipari as their coach, and they're going to have a new roster again. And finally is Miami. Man, it's a bad picture for Miami, but look, Miami is my last team. This team, I think I had 9th, 10, or 11th in the nation this year. Coming off another Final Four appearance, bringing back Norchad, Nigel Pack, Poplar, bringing in a guy like Matthew Cleveland. This team was supposed to be a contender in the ACC, be a top 3 team, be a high seed, try and make Jim Larrañaga get another run. And that's not what happened, man. Miami was a below 500 team, lost their first game in the ACC tournament. Never was healthy, never was good. It was a really bad year for the Hurricanes. We'll see if they can reload. They're supposed to be really good next year. I think they're bringing back a lot of key pieces, bringing in a 5-star freshman. But this year for Miami, man, really pissed me off. This was a very tough award to give out. This was one of my hardest ones to give a winner to. But I went with Miami for the most disappointing team this year. And it was because I was, as an ACC guy, I loved watching this Miami team last year. And I understood they lost Jordan Miller and Isaiah Wong, but the reason I picked them over Arkansas is they still brought back key pieces from a really good team. Unlike Arkansas, who really had a new team, I understand why they didn't live up to expectations because I just overrated them. Miami was a team that everyone universally had as a really good team going into the year. They saw what they brought back, and they let us all down, had a bad year, an under 500 year. They lost to Louisville at home. Just a bad year for the Hurricanes here. They're going to look to reload this upcoming year. But another ACC team to win the most disappointing team of the year. And, it's going to be every year where a top 10 team lets you down. But this team wasn't close to being good. Arkansas, they didn't show really any good moments of being good. Neither really did Arkansas, and FAU made the tournament. That's why they didn't win. But all these three teams really let me down. But Miami was the one who it stung the most for them being bad this year. Quick break, and we'll get to my white boy of the year. The white boy of the year is a little different this year than last. Last year, I just picked the best white boy, but this year, I wanted to do someone who embodies the white boy. As a white basketball player myself, you got to do the little things. You got to be dirty. You got to be a shooter. You got to get under people's skin, and you obviously got to be really good to win this award. Last year, Drew Timme was probably still the right pick. Obviously, a college basketball legend, Drew Timme, but he wasn't liked as much. You kind of got to be hated to fill this role, but you got to be hated in a sense where I don't completely hate you, but I understand why people did. And that's why a guy who didn't make this list, Kyle Flipkowski, didn't make it because I don't like Flip. I don't think anyone likes Flip. It wouldn't be right for him to get the award for White Boy of the Year if you don't get liked. So you have to come with some controversy or just be really, really loved. These three players, you'll understand why I picked them. My first up is Tyler Kolek. Look at this. Look, he was second team All-American. He was a first team All-Big East. He was a Big East Player of the Year nominee. And he was a nominee last year for White Boy of the Year. Tyler Kolek was so good this year. He bowed through injury late in the year. But the way he embodies a white boy is kind of what I like. He's fiery. He plays with a lot of heart. He gets downhill. He doesn't care what you think, how you're going to guard him. He's going to get out there and play great basketball. He comes with swagger too. Obviously, Tyler Kolek he's the best player on this list. I'm telling you right now. We see his awards. He has a lot of them. And he led Marquette to another great year, Sweet 16 performance there. And he's going to the NBA, and I think he can be a great NBA player. Second up is Cam Spencer. I think he's probably the most disliked player on this list there. Cam Spencer is on this list because the way he fires up, he contributed to winning, came from Rutgers, before that Loyola Marymount, I think, and Loyola Maryland, and became one of the best players on one of the best teams in the country. He was my second team All Big East and the Big East Transfer of the Year. The way he talks, the way he plays, his craftiness, his shot, his fiery spirit. Cam Spencer, again, embodies the white boy on the basketball court, and I think a lot of people can relate to him when you watch him play. And finally, it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's what was it? Larry. He had a Larry Bird nickname too. I can't remember. Robbie Avila is on here from Indiana State, man. The nation missed him in the NCAA tournament. We got robbed of seeing him play, but the nation fell in love with him. The goggles, the tats, the swagger. Indiana State being a really good team this year. It's a shame we didn't get to see him in the NCAA tournament. He wasn't my Missouri Valley Player of the Year because I went to another white boy in Tucker DeFries. But Robbie Avila had a great year. I'm assuming he's going to go to St. Louis next year and follow his coach. But man, I wish we could see this guy on a high major team, but he was a joy to watch, and Indiana State had a great NIT run. This was a very hard award to give out, man. And this is obviously the Christian Laettner Award for a reason, because Christian Laettner, probably the most hated player ever to play college basketball. So who is your 2024 White Boy of the Year? I picked Cam Spencer for this award. Contributing to winning was a big thing. But also, I loved when he would pump his fist to the crowd, get really hype. He flirted on the line of getting hated, but also being loved by some people. Me personally, big fan of Cam Spencer. He came in the big moments, was so crafty, little one-legged fadeaways, a great three-point shooter. I think he can be a really good player in the NBA. If you get him in the second round, he can come in instantly and impact the game. He knows how to move without the ball. He's playing a good system like UConn, and he can contribute in the NBA right away. It was a tough award, man. Kolek was the best player. Robbie Avila was the most loved. There's some other good white boys. Connect didn't even make my list because obviously Connect's the best white boy, but I didn't feel like right giving him this award. Flip could have been on this. There's so many guys that Marcus Domask, just I can keep going on, man. A lot of great white guys, man, that all deserve this award. And but I'm giving it to Cam Spencer. Again, it's not the best player. It's what I think embodies the white guy the most watching college basketball. And obviously, gotta be good, like Cam Spencer is. Next up, the Depoy, the Javon Carter, press Virginia days, man. Last year's winner, Reese Beekman. Will he be on this list again? I'm gonna tell you right now, no. Ryan Dunn could have been on this. Virginia wasn't good enough to win this award. But we have 3 really deserving nominees. First up's Ryan Kalk. I just have Baylor Scheim there. That's a mistake. That's on me. Hand up. I'm gonna fix that. Let's go look at our Depoy nominees. First up is Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. Last year, he was up for this award for National Player of the Year, Defense Player of the Year. I don't give this award for conference, just because it's a lot of work, but he would have been up there. He would have won my Big East Defense Player of the Year, and he was a first-team All Big East player. He anchors a Creighton defense who again made a Sweet 16 for the second straight year. Just a real impactful player. He's so lengthy, doesn't get in foul trouble a lot. Just blocks a lot of shots, and it's so hard to get to score him when he's at the rim there. A great college career for Ryan Kalkbrenner, and being a 2-time guy to be on this list is so impressive. He's the only player to do that twice in last year and this year. Next up, one sec. I need to close my door. Mr. Donovan Clingan is my second nominee. If you watch my All-American teams, he was 3rd-team All-Big East, but also 3rd-team All-American, because I really prioritize how you play in the biggest moments, and Clingan elevated his game. But defensively, especially in the tournament, and in that game against Illinois, first comes to my mind is when he was on the court, Illinois couldn't score. 30-0 run. His range, in my opinion, is the most important part. He can go out there and kind of defend the pick and roll, get back, pin your shot on the backboard. He's not afraid at all. He contests everything, and he's also very good at not fouling. Not as good as a guy like Kalkbrenner, but he's way more aggressive, I think way more mobile, and that's why his NBA upside is so high compared to some of these other bigs, is because of the way he's so versatile to move defensively. Obviously we saw him against Edey, and look, Edey's going to dominate everyone he plays, but I think Clingan defensively all year was so good. And 2 Big East bigs. Kalkbrenner would have won the Big East Defense Player of the Year, but Donovan Clingan, man, especially in the tournament, elevated his defensive capabilities to one of the best in the nation. And finally, it's my guard on this list, Jamal Shead, a first-team All-American, first-team Big 12, the Big 12 Player of the Year, would have been Big 12 Defense Player of the Year. I think we all know Jamal Shead's impact defensively. It's second to none. The way he just attacks the ball, it's insane with his offensive load, and then what he can give on the defensive load. He won pretty much every National Defensive Player of the Year award for a reason. It was because of his impact. The way he just stopped the ball, made your opposing point guards' life hell. It's truly impressive what he did this year. Yeah. This is a tough award. Javon Carter Award for Defense Player of the Year. Last year, Reese Beekman will go to a guard again. It will. Look, Jamal Shead doesn't have the block numbers, the steal numbers, as some of Clingan and Kalkbrenner, but the way he was able to make every night. Houston was the best defensive team in the country, and when you have your guy like Jamal Shead leading the show there, just not giving you anything easy, being up in your grill with the damn near 94 feet, it goes without being said. We saw what happened when he left the Duke game. Houston's a great defensive team all around, but when they lost to Shead, we saw Duke, go on a little run and win that game. With Jamal Shead there, not just offensively, but especially defensively, Houston was not as good as a team. And when you are the best player on the best defense team in the nation, and what he does at the point of attack, it's insane. And he wins my Depoy there. So back-to-back years for guards winning Defense Player of the Year. Next up is my Coach of the Year. The Dean Smith Award for Coach of the Year. Last year's winner was Jerome Tang. It was weird with Jerome Tang when he won it. He didn't win my Big 12 Coach of the Year, but what he did, getting Kansas State to an Elite Eight, and just getting this team out of nowhere, he won my award. This year, the nominees are tough. I knew 2 guys were going to be on there. The third one was tough. First up is Dan Hurley from UConn. Look, he was my Big East Coach of the Year last year, almost won Big East Coach of the Year. What else do I have to say about Dan Hurley's job, man? just spectacular. Back-to-back national champions. Not a new cast of characters, but a new. It was a new team with Caravan and Tristan Newton and Don McClain coming back. All of them had bigger roles, brought in new guys, meshed them perfectly, and is one of the greatest teams of all time. What can I say? This is the hard one for me. I go TJ Ossenberger. He was on my. I mean, Hurley was ranked 8th in my preseason. They won the national championship, was the best team all year. Iowa State wasn't ranked at all, and they made the Elite Eight. Was a perennial top 5 team in my rankings the last 2 months of the year. He's done 3 years, 2 Sweet 16s, an Elite Eight. TJ Ossenberger's done an amazing job at Iowa State this year. In the last 3 years, but especially this year, leading a team that I didn't have ranked into a top 8 team. This team bringing back Tamin Lipsey next year. Iowa State's going to be one of the best teams in the nation again. But the way he outdid expectations this year and winning the Big 12 tournament and coming second in the regular season in the hardest conference in America, it speaks volumes. My Big 12 coach of the year was Kelvin Sampson. Getting Houston from the American to the Big 12 and looking like nothing changed was the reason he won my Big 12 Coach of the Year, man. Obviously, we never know the tournament success. He lost the Sweet 16 back-to-back years, man. But Houston this year was the second best team in the country. Our third best team in the country, I guess, behind Purdue and UConn. I had him won a lot of the year. The way he didn't have a NBA talented player, but it didn't matter. Houston this year, I had high expectations for them. Going into the year, I think I had them ranked like 5th or 6th, and they outdone those expectations and were amazing. But I think the pick was easy. I just left off Matt Painter. I'm sorry, Matt. You brought back your whole team from last year, and you kind of had to do this. So, look, Matt Painter was my first guy off the list. But who's your Dean Smith Award for Coach of the Year? I go to Dan Hurley here. It was the only pick. Led to one of the greatest tournament runs in the nation. His offense, the way he runs it, his confidence, the way he just manages a team, the inspiration he gives them. Dan Hurley was the only winner for this award, man. Didn't give it to him last year, even though he won the national championship. But what he did this year was just so impressive, and he's not leaving UConn. And UConn's going to have expectations to win 3 in a row. Are they going to do it? Probably not. Is it going to be hard to bet against? Yeah, it's going to be hard to bet against because when this guy's leading your team, I believe in whatever product you put out there. And finally, the player of the year, the biggest award of the year. This is my Lou Alcindor Award. Tough to come up with 3 nominees, man. Last year's winner was Big Eads, Zach Edey. I think we know who's going to go to it this year. But we got to go over these nominees. First off is Jamal Shead. What can I say about Jamal Shead that I haven't said? The first team All-American, National Defensive Player of the Year, Big 12 first team, Big 12 Player of the Year. I've already talked a lot about this guy. Obviously, he doesn't go down that Duke game. I think Houston makes the Final Four, maybe a national championship game. He came into the Big 12. We didn't know. Last year they had really good players on their team last year, and the year before Marcus Sasser was one, and Jamal Shead was better than Marcus Sasser last year. Jamal Shead is the best defense player of the country and the best point guard in the country. The way he leads his team, can score at any time, and he doesn't have to do it through scoring. He play makes. He leads the team. He was the best player on one of the best 3 teams in the country. Next up is Dalton Knecht. My probably top 3 favorite player to watch this year. Comes out of nowhere. I mean, look at this list. First team All-American, the national transfer year, the SEC transfer year, the SEC player of the year, the first team All-SEC. Just a guy from Northern Colorado transferred in and made Tennessee a Elite 8 team, a perennial highly national ranked team, got a lot of media attention. And lived up to every expectation going into the tournament and played in the biggest moments and played amazing. In my heart, he's a National Player of the Year, but can I give it to him? We'll see. Last up, it's Zach Edey. I haven't talked about Zach Edey this episode, but he was a first-team All-American, a first-team All-Big Ten, the Big Ten Player of the Year, last year's National Player of the Year, and Big Ten Player of the Year. Zach Edey had one of the greatest tournament runs of all time this year. I mean, 40, he had damn near 40 against Tennessee, or maybe he did have 40. 30-point game against Gonzaga, a great game against Utah State. Didn't have a great game at NC State, but it didn't matter. He made it to the national championship, had a great game in the Natty and a loss. Unstoppable. I don't know what else to say. Is he my favorite player to watch? No. But there's no denying how good he is. This is, again, a tough award to give out. These three players, RJ Davis and Terrence Shannon, were my next two I left off. But I gave it to Shed for the defensive impact, the tournament success, and we saw what happened to their team once he got injured. Houston was not a good team, or not a great team. So my Lou Alcindor Award for the Player of the Year, man. This was tough, but it went to Zach Edey. Back-to-back winners for the Lou Alcindor Award. And look, I'll be the first guy to hate on Zach Edey. But there's no denying the unstoppable force he was all year. And in that national championship game, the Tennessee game sealed the deal, but the national championship game put a stamp on it. He carried that team. He scored over half the team's points in that one. He was unstoppable against one of the best defensive players in the country. Look, I don't know how his NBA career will happen, or what will go down, where he get picked, but he'll forever go down as one of the best college basketball players of all time, and a legend, and the greatest Purdue player of all time. And Purdue may never win a national championship, but they can look back on this year, these past 2 years, and know they had two special teams, one real big letdown, and a great bounce back year, and had the best player in the nation. And yeah, Zach Edey's my Player of the Year. And those were my awards. It's been a great season of making content. Over 60 videos, more than last year. It's been real, man. I'm gonna create more off-season content. I don't know if it'll all be college basketball. Maybe an NFL mock, maybe an NBA mock for sure. NFL draft coming up. Maybe golf. Who knows what content's coming out on this channel, man. It's been a college basketball channel for the last 2 years, and I've got way more followers and views than last year, like 10 times as much. So it's been greatly appreciated all year. I hope I continue to do this. It's been real fun. I put in a lot of hours of doing this, and I appreciate everyone that's at least viewed one video, left any comments or anything. It's been an honor to do it, and I hope to do this more in the future. So thanks for watching this episode, man. I don't know when I'll see you next, but it won't be long. I promise you that. And yeah, 2024 college basketball season content is over. Thanks for you've been watching this beginning. Greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.